Hi everyone, today I just wanted to do a short video on line quality to go along with my blog post online. So if you want a little bit more thoughts online and how to work with it and get more confident and professional looking lines in your drawings, then you can go to that blog post. It's at maneloliphant.com/news. So there's just 3 quick tips, sort of things that I want you to keep in mind while you're working with line. If you're able to do this, it'll bring the quality of your line drawings and images up a gazillion and just really make those drawings stand out more. So here's a couple things to keep in mind. I'm just going to do a quick overview and then I'll go into detail and explain everything. The first thing you want to keep in mind is the confidence of your line. The second thing you'll want to keep in mind is the thicknesses or varying the thicknesses of your line. And the third thing you want to keep in mind is invisible lines. So what I mean by confident lines is the difference between how it just shows how when you draw your line if you knew what you were doing or didn't know what you were doing. So lots of times, especially artists that are beginning out or just haven't been told this principle, they'll kind of start out and, say they're drawing a tree and it's from life. They're trying to make it look exactly like the one. They'll kind of like slowly fill out the tree, kind of scratching along, hoping to get it in the right spot, and the line ends up looking really kind of messy and a little bit furry almost. So what you really want to try and do when you're drawing is to get a nice confident, straight line that shows you knew what you were going to draw, is to kind of look at the shape that you're drawing and go ahead and draw, a basic shape pretty lightly if it's a tree. Get some tree branches in here, some roots and the branches coming up. So as you're looking at your image or the thing from life or drawing from your head, you want to kind of block it in with some basic shapes. Think of leaves and trunks and everything as one big shape or as shapes rather than each individual leaf, at least at first. And once you get a nice block in, then you can go back in and you know exactly where you want those branches to go, so you can get a lot more confidence in your line. And you can also adjust things as you go, but it just makes a lot nicer line as you're going along, and you can get that confidence, and it doesn't have that sort of almost furry feel that sort of shows that the artist was going around trying to figure out what they were doing as they went. The second thing you want to keep in mind is line thickness. There's 2 things I like to think about when I'm working with line thickness. One of them is that thicker lines look like they're closer to you, and thinner lines look like they're further away. So if you look at this right here, I have this line right here that's thicker, and then the tree leaf shape is sort of coming over the top of that tree. But this line that's thicker stands out a lot more than this one, and it kind of comes forward in the image. So I like to think about that as I'm going and kind of, thicken up the lines that are a little bit closer. So I'm going to put some leaves in here too. looks like a mess. But you can see, even though it looks like a mess, usually I don't like it to look so messy, that comes forward a lot more. You see it a lot more clearly. You can do it again. Say there's some leaves that come across the tree branch right here. Have our tree branch and the leaves coming. Just going to take a little bit of time to go ahead and thicken those lines up. Just so it looks like they're coming forward a little bit more than the branch of the tree is. And then these leaves that come behind the tree can be a little bit lighter, and they move back a little bit. So hopefully you can see how that works. The second thing that you want to keep in line with line thickness is when you're doing a line drawing, you can show lights and darks with your line. So if this is a tree and the light is coming from over here, and we'll pretend there's nothing blocking this area, we know that there's a light side over here and a shadow side over here. So the shadow side lines can be a little bit thicker. And then as it comes around, this side is the light side, it can be a little bit thinner, and it will show that there's light coming from that way and that the other side is in a shadow. So kind of see how that comes around, and it having the varied thicknesses really adds something to the drawing and makes the lines a little bit more interesting. So yeah. The third thing is called invisible lines. Invisible lines are lines that your brain fills in for you when the line isn't actually there, or the viewer's brain fills in the line. So see, I kind of broke this line up. It's on the light side, so I wanted it to be thin. And one way to make it really thin is make it not there. And you can see, like, your brain just imagines that there's a line there, even though there actually isn't. This is really useful for any kind of drawing that you have. If you're drawing a landscape or a character or whatever, it's a really great idea to take into account that you could do invisible lines that, you know, your brain can sort of fill in, because that brings participation into your piece. Like, the viewer has to do a little bit of work to do it, to get it in there. So it would be the same as if I added some leaves up here. Instead of drawing every single individual leaf and every branch, you can kind of break it up a little and draw a couple of the leaves and a couple of the shapes where the leaves would go, and your brain goes ahead and fills in the rest, that this is a whole leafy shape and there's leaves there, and it gives your drawing some dimension. It helps the leaves come in, look a little bit more realistic, because when you look at something, if you really look at it, you can see every single edge, but your brain doesn't actually want to take in all of that information. So if you're looking at a tree, you don't actually look at each individual leaf or the lines of the trunk. It's more of a overall thing. So if you can add in some, disappearing lines to kind of help the brain do its thing that it wants to do and participate in the action of the picture, I guess, then you're going to have a lot more interesting line drawing than you would otherwise have.